Hey, Ruthless Church. Today is a very beautiful winter day, man. I'm smiling. I got up this morning, put up my poofy jacket, saying, oh, man, let me go out and walk in this coldness. When I walked out, it was feeling grand. I'm loving it. Well, at any rate, but that's not what I want to talk to you about today. What I want to talk to you about today is nothing. Yes, nothing. Nothing is like the most impossible subject to ever talk about. But I'm going to try anyway because I like to test my brain. So here's the first and probably the best thing I can say about nothing. Nothing is never what you think it is. So what do I mean when I say nothing is never what you think it is? Well, when we try to think about nothing, it's already not nothing. It's already something. It's whatever we're thinking. And nothing is not what we're thinking. Plus, is not anything else. So nothing is like nothing. But that's really hard to talk about, right? But still we try and we do. People will say, hey, man, what you doing today? Oh, I'm doing nothing. Well, you can't do nothing because whatever you're doing is something. So you can't be doing nothing. But we say we're doing nothing. And usually what we mean, or what I assume most people mean when they say they're doing nothing is, I guess the best way I can describe it is to say, I'm not doing anything that's making an impact on the world or anyone's life or even my own life in this moment. And, I mean, I'm just going to go ahead and generalize and say that that's a pretty accurate description of what people mean when they say I'm doing nothing. Oops. And it might not be what you mean, but I'm pretty sure to some degree it's what a lot of people mean. So just go with it. Stop questioning me. Anyway, the point is, so why do we say that? And the other thing is, does nothing not have an impact on the world? Yeah, I know that sounds kind of crazy. But now I'm going to use the Bible, the Bible. All right, so in Genesis, it says that when God created the world, it was void and without form. And so let's say that the void, the formless void, let's say that's nothing. I know like in Latin they say that God made the world ex nihilo, which means out of nothing. So if God created the world out of nothing, then, well, that doesn't make nothing something. But what it does is it says, okay, creation itself is something from nothing. So you can't make something without nothing. I know this sounds crazy, but at any rate, the point of it is that in order for us to really understand everything that is, somehow we have to get into an intimate relationship with nothing. Can you believe it? But that's scary, because what does that mean for most of us? Well, going to the word ex nihilo, as I said before, which means out of nothing, and God creating the world out of nothing, then that nihil part, or nihilo, or N-I-H-I-L, well, that's a part of the word annihilation. You see that spit shoot out my mouth when I said that? Annihilation. So anyway, that means that in order to get comfortable with the magnificence of all that is, this beauty that I'm a part of today, I have to get comfortable with annihilation. I have to get comfortable with nothingness. And you know what? Many of us are afraid of that. And why are we afraid of that? Because if we get comfortable with annihilation, that means we got to get comfortable with the non-existence of our own selves, our very selves being non-existent. Can you imagine it? You're enjoying life. You're a multi-gazillionaire chilling by the pool. You got servants and stuff. Everybody loves you. You're good looking. You're tall. You're whatever people think is the best everything. But you owe it all to nothing. And in order to really, really, really get into that junk, you have to be comfortable with annihilation. Yeah, I'm telling you how it is. Because if all that is, and this is built on the premise that you believe that there is a God that's creating out of nothing, If you don't, just go to a different blog. But if you can accept that, or you try to believe it, or you try to, go along with it because that's what your mama told you, then this is for you. This is saying that somehow you got to get comfortable with annihilation in order to receive everything that is, because everything that is came out of nothing. And most of us can't do that because we are scared of not existing. That's what we think death is. We think death is not existing, and we're scared of not existing. We're so scared of not existing that we don't even want to think about not existing or being dead, or whatever you want to call it, post-death. Which, if that makes any sense to you, we think about heaven or even hell as a form of existence, because some of us would rather be in hell than not exist. We don't want to not exist. You know what I mean? That's how scary it is. And we'll do anything to not exist. And so it's very, very difficult to willingly accept annihilation in order to come in contact with the fullness of all that is. How can we, man? Because then it's like, well, if I do that, then that means that I won't be here to even care about all that is. It's a crazy mystery. It's a paradox. And I don't talk about it often because it makes brains explode. But I'm talking about it today for some reason. So if you're here watching this post, you must be just crazy enough to try to understand this thing. So where's all this nothing talk going? Well, it's going everywhere. It's going to everything. Because that annihilation, that nothingness, that void from which all things emerge, that uncreated aspect of creation, man, that's where all the power is. Yo. And I'm sharing it for no reason. Because guess what? If you're operating out of the void, it also means that there's no meaning. Because when things emerge in creation, we give it meaning. Like I said, it's a beautiful day. The warm sun is shining on my face. I'm feeling really good, right? Because I've given meaning to what a nice day is. So not only does everything go away when you're coming out of the void, all meaning comes out of it. That's how far and how deep the nothingness goes. The nothingness doesn't even mean anything. So every feeling that we feel about nothingness, every feeling we feel about annihilation, that ain't got nothing to do with it either. I'm talking crazy talk. But if you're willing and you're ready to hear this, man, you're ready to go to the next paradigm where we do stuff just because we do it. Because people say, well, why would God do it? God just, I don't know. God just does stuff or whatever. God just is. God just does. God just be. And if we're willing to just be and not necessarily have a reason and not necessarily have to make up a meaning for it, and we can do things for no reason that emerge out of the void and the nothingness, you know the power behind that? Well, the only way to know is to be willing to be annihilated. And I'm going to give you an example. The example I'm always pulling out because I don't know anybody else. Hallelujah. Jesus. I submit to you that Christ submitted himself to annihilation, not just death. Because let me tell you about death real quick. Death is not as scary as annihilation. Because when we think about dying, we'll say, oh, I don't want to die. But when we think about it, we're actually imagining it from a place beyond death. We actually are imagining seeing ourselves dead, seeing our own funeral, seeing people having feelings about what happens if we die and all this other stuff. But guess what? You can't do that from the place of death. If death is what you think it is, how could you? Because if you're dead, you're not going to see your funeral. If you're dead the way you think dead is, so death can't even be annihilation. Death is some other type of life, perhaps. That's why Jesus said, let the dead bury their own dead. Death is some other dimension of life, or let's just say that it is, if death is what we think it is. Like a passage into another world, blah, 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 blah. But annihilation, that's going into the void. That's going into the void of never ever being. That's going into a place where you never even were. It's going from I was to I was never. And if you were never, there's no remnants, no trace of your being that you can even hold on to. That's like ultimate faith. So that if you are re-emerge from annihilation, then how can you not be walking in the power of all that is? So when they say that cryptic stuff, and when Paul says his cryptic, all things were put under him, but when we say that all things are put under him, it's the exception of the one who put all things under him. And then when all things are under him, he's going to give all things to him who put all things under him, so that God can be all in all. Yeah, that sounds crazy. It's some crazy talk. But if you can just for a minute fathom what I'm talking about right now, about annihilation, that the possibility that the Christ consciousness that Jesus surrendered to was so willing, so faithful, so trusting, that dude went into annihilation to the point in the void before all things were, and then reemerged from the void. Then he's one with all that is. His consciousness, his personality, gone. The meaning, gone. But at the same time, he's reemerging from that void, one with all that is, because that's where all that is emerges from. And so if that one can do that, then that one is one with all that is for eternity, without beginning or without end. But in order to do that, you got to do something and conceive of something and fathom of something that most of us don't want to do. We got to think about a world without us, and then willingly submit to the power that all it is, and faith, hope, and love that it will recreate you with the power that all it is. If you don't know what I'm talking about, email me, comment on the blog, do something, but I ain't lying when I say what I just said. Nothing is never what you think it is.